Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the absolute bedrock of every single criminal case, the First Information Report. You've probably heard it called the FIR. I mean, if you've ever watched a crime thriller or caught the evening news, the term is everywhere. But how does it actually work in the real world?
Let's set the scene. Imagine you're walking down the street. We'll call you Allie for this example. And suddenly someone steals your mobile phone at gunpoint. It's terrifying, right? In that exact moment, a crime has definitely been committed. Specifically, robbery under PPC Section 392. But what's next? Do you know the exact legal steps to make sure the police actually start an investigation? Well, that's exactly what we're going to map out for you today.
All right, here is our playbook. We're going to cover 5 key areas: the key to justice, the step-by-step procedure, the big difference between cognizable and non-cognizable offenses, some crucial rules to remember, and finally, the flow of justice. Let's get into it.
Starting off with Section 1, the key to justice. We really need to understand the foundation of a criminal case.
I absolutely love how our source material frames this. It calls the FIR the key that opens the door of justice. And honestly, that hits the nail on the head. Because without this very first step, those doors, they stay firmly locked. Think of it like the ignition switch in a car. You can have a fully fueled engine of criminal law, but without turning that key, you're not going anywhere.
So, what actually is it? An FIR, or First Information Report, is literally exactly what it sounds like. It's the very first piece of information given to the police about a cognizable offense. But here's the crucial thing you've got to remember. An FIR is not absolute proof. No way. It's simply the earliest written version of what happened. Getting it down on paper right after an incident is so important because it stops the facts from being twisted or changed later on.
To really grasp this, we need to peek at the legal backbone, the Criminal Procedure Code, or CPC. The whole FIR process is governed specifically by Section 154. Then you have Section 155, which handles non-cognizable cases. We'll get to what that means in a minute. And Sections 156 and 157 basically lay out the police's power to actually go out and investigate. The big takeaway here? Without an FIR under Section 154, the police generally cannot even start an investigation into a serious crime, unless there's a very specific rare exception.
Now, this is actually super interesting. You might assume that only the direct victim, like Ollie with the stolen phone, can lodge an FIR. But actually, scratch that. It's a total myth. Any single person who has knowledge that a crime happened can step forward. You can do it yourself in person, you can send an agent, or you could just be a relative, a friend, or even just a bystander who witnessed it. The whole system is purposefully designed to make reporting a crime as easy and accessible as possible.
Moving right along to Section 2, the step-by-step procedure. Let's navigate Section 154 of the CRIMPS. Before we zoom in, just take a quick look at this ecosystem. It maps out everything from the initial incident all the way through the legal sections and definitions. I know, it looks a little complex at first glance, but it's basically just a giant puzzle, and as you'll see, every single piece connects super methodically.
Okay, let's break down exactly what happens when you actually walk through the doors of a police station. Under Section 154, you're looking at 6 exact steps. First, you give the info to the officer in charge. Second, they have to write it down. Third, and this is to make sure there are no misunderstandings, they read it back to you, the informant, and formally record it. Step 4, you sign it. Now pay attention to Step 5 because this is absolutely crucial. You are given a copy of that FIR completely free of cost. That is your legal right for sure. Once those 5 steps are locked in, we hit Step 6 and the police officially start their investigation.
All right, on to Section 3, cognizable versus non-cognizable offenses. Basically, the rules of police engagement.
We have been throwing the word cognizable around, so let's clear that up. This is probably one of the most critical legal distinctions out there. On the left side, a cognizable offense is usually a more serious crime. In these cases, the police have real immediate power. They can register an FIR, they can arrest a suspect without needing a warrant, and they can launch an investigation without a court order. Boom. But on the right side, for non-cognizable offenses, the police's hands are kind of tied. They cannot register an FIR, no warrantless arrests, and they definitely cannot investigate without a direct order from a magistrate. Instead, the info just goes into a daily diary under Section 155. So the severity of the crime literally dictates the entire police response.
Which brings us to Section 4, crucial rules to remember to protect your legal rights.
You're definitely going to want to keep these 5 rules in your back pocket. First off, an FIR must be lodged immediately. If you delay, you'll have to explain exactly why to a judge, mostly because delays give people time to invent fake stories. Second, and I find this really empowering, the police simply cannot refuse to register an FIR for a serious, cognizable offense. The famous Lolita Kumre case proved this, establishing that the law is supreme. Third, a big warning. Filing a fake FIR? Yeah, that's a punishable crime under PPC sections 182 and 211. Don't do it. Fourth, in an emergency, you can register an FIR at any police station, even though it'll eventually be investigated where the crime actually happened. And lastly, women have the specific right to lodge an FIR through a female officer, which helps ensure a safer, more comfortable environment.
Finally, Section 5, the flow of justice. Let's follow this from the initial offense all the way to the courtroom.
Let's pull the camera back and look at the big picture. Tracing Ali's stolen phone, we start at time 0, the actual robbery. Minutes or maybe hours later, the police get the info and the FIR is registered. The key is turned. Days later, because of that FIR, the investigation kicks off. They gather evidence, question suspects, the whole shebang. Weeks later, the police file what's called a challan, which is basically a formal charge sheet. And months later, all of this culminates in a court trial. When you look at this timeline, it's so clear how the FIR acts as the starting gun for this entire journey. Without step 2, you literally never make it to step 5.
To wrap up our explainer today, I've got a quick pop quiz for you, straight from our source material. Based on Section 154 of the CRPC, is a copy of the FIR given to the informant on demand, after an arrest is made, or completely free of cost? Think about it for a second. If you said completely free of cost, you nailed it. Look, understanding these little nuances doesn't just make you great at trivia, it actually empowers you. Next time you see a headline about an FIR, you won't just know what the letters stand for, you'll know exactly how it unlocks the entire justice system. But knowing how to turn the key is really only half the battle. The real question you've got to ask yourself is, how smoothly does that engine of justice actually run once it starts? Thanks for hanging out with us for this explainer, and we will see you next time.